Bloodwolf Arts Studio. Unleash the artist within.
Welcome to Bloodwolf Arts Studio, and I'm your host, Mr. Moonlight. So today I'm reading my next poem from my poem series, my collection of poetry, The Seasons of Life, Volume 1, Autumn. This one is titled The Seed of Dreams. It was written October 7th, 2011, so about a week later from my other one. And this one was written um, a lot about my thoughts and ideas about what I wanted to do with the future. I remember also reflecting on my poetry and my talents, my gifts, the things I thought I was meant to do. And some of the big things I had in my focus was being a Sunday school teacher, was being in a high calling in the priesthood, in the LDCC, Latter-day Church of Christ. And also, I remember thinking about my poetry. And at this point in my life, I remember I used to be into a lot of video games. And there was one point, I seemed like I was like when I was around 16, and it was around when Halo 2 came out. And I was always about pleasing my dad. And I remember one comment he made, one time it just stuck, where he didn't really like the video games, especially the shooting ones we'd play. And at one point, I just kind of turned off video games and I started to not really care near as much about them as I used to. And I picked up things like learning to sing or poetry or piano, learning to play piano. Um, at some point, I even picked up artistry, drawing, sketching, different things like that. And there was actually a point where I bought like 7 or 8 instruments. I had like an acoustic violin, and I had electric violin, and I had an acoustic guitar, and I had an acoustic electric guitar, and I had um, a mini keyboard, and I had a full size keyboard, and I had a microphone, and what else did I have? I don't think I ever got a full electric guitar, but then I had dreams of getting like a full-size grand piano and I was like all this other stuff. Like I just went full out in the arts instead of and made that my focus instead of that. And I remember that was some of the things that was on my mind when I was writing this one, because this poem was really just all about um, people who have talents and how important it is for people to take their talents and their skills that they are gifted by God to have and to plant them. And the poem goes through different scenarios where people they go through their life and they complain that they never had any talents. And my thing was just like, well, of course you do have talents, but you've neglected them, and so you didn't take them. And mentioning like it makes the angels weep. Um, with people who say it's someone else's fault that they didn't make anything of their life, and um, that it's someone else's to blame for the fact that their life didn't turn out. It's just like, no, you were given everything and you just wasted your talent. And a lot of this really reflects on how much where I wanted so much to just take all the talents and the skills I felt like I'd been given, and I wanted to use them to um, make something of myself, be recognized, and really just be a contribution to my community. And so this poem really just captured a lot of that. Um, and a lot of those expectations I suppose I had of myself, and the way that I would reflect that by when other people would talk about how they were struggling. Then one of the things I really enjoyed doing would be encouraging other people to um, take what they have and to make something of themselves. I feel like that's something I did enjoy doing with people, was encouraging them to recognize their own value, because that's something that's always been real important to me. Like I remember like growing up, like I felt like I was, every time I turned around, I was always encouraging somebody to just keep going and looking for the good in people and seeing the goodness in people's heart and looking past all of the flaws, which, while ironically not being able to do that with myself, tales all this time. Um, and just having that expectation of myself, like I've got to do this. I've got to make sure I don't waste my talents, my gifts. I can't be a waste. I've got to make sure I'm doing what I can. What are my talents? What are my gifts? Struggling between, do I build the kingdom of God using my talents um, to in service of the community, which at the time was to be a teacher, um, or do I um, write poetry or do some other kind of creative art? Make sure I'm taking all my talents and I'm utilizing them and not wasting them, not wasting what I've been given. Which, and I guess at this point, I was just like, well, what are my talents? Like, figuring out what my talents are. Is it this? Is it this? Is it this? How do I balance all these things that I just want to do? And I feel like that's also as a part of this is there's so many things I feel like I always want to do. Even today, I have felt like it's this searching, um, but I felt there's so much pressure. This at the time is, what am I good at? What do I do? I don't want to waste my talents. I don't want to waste my gifts, and I want to make sure I plant what I've been given and nurture it. Um, Another thing that really is contrasted in this poem that I wanted to touch up on was it's interesting because there's so much focus on marriage in a lot of my mindsets and put into you see in a lot of my poetry is there was a really heavy emphasis on purpose and I feel like that was really the balance and the struggle. But it seemed like every time I would write poetry and I would reflect on what that would say about me, as it seemed like, and it came out in this one that as much as marriage was like the thing that was the top of my priority, at the end of the day, the thing that mattered more to me than anything was a purpose, wanting to have some kind of purpose, wanting to feel fulfilled in a role, wanting to feel valued and valuable by my community so that I could feel like I meant something, that I was contributing something valuable to society or to the micro society I grew up in. Um, which ultimately, like the biggest purpose and vision we were always told growing up in the DCCS was we're building the kingdom of God and it's going to benefit the whole world because nobody has what we have. And we're modeling to the rest of the, the whole entire planet of all of society. This is what it means to live according to God's laws and live successfully and happily and doing everything right and doing things in the right order. But there was just a line in the poem where it talks about having a purpose is more important, and it's like the most valuable, most important thing. And so this was a little interesting to me with the poetry I've written so far, as this one really reflects um, purpose being a higher priority than getting married. Of course, marriage was like super high priority, but having a purpose, gifts, talents was something that was more important than anything to me. And that was something I struggled with. I've got to find a purpose. I've got to find a purpose. I've got to find a purpose. I've got to find my purpose. Got to find my way to contribute on top of all this other stuff. And the internal struggle of being like, okay, I've got to do something that's special, that's out of the ordinary. And then somewhere in the poem, resigning to like it's like resigning to the fact it's like, well, even if I can do something that someone else can do, then there's a lot of value in us coming together and sharing our talents. Like even if it's not different than someone else's, then there's still value when we come together and share our gifts. And just a lot of emphasis on not being discouraged. So as much as it was reflection of my struggles, I felt like it was also that aspect of me just saying, you know what, let's not be discouraged. Telling other people like, don't be discouraged. Use your talents, use your gifts. Like you have them. If they don't get used, then that's not on anybody else because you have them. You've been given them. And ultimately, you're speaking that back to myself. Like I have something. I just got to figure out what it is. So one thing that I really feel like this poem really captured. I mean, ultimately, at the end of the day, um, reflected how much I actually was stuck in my head constantly, thinking my thoughts. What do I do? Balancing so many things. Um, And as I reflect on it now, my mind was really in survival mode, constantly bouncing from one expectation to the next. And again, it's like, I mean, really, how much of this is too much different from the kind of pressure that a lot of society places on teenagers to figure their life out. But um, I don't know, sometimes I listen to other people's experiences and I'm like, man, I feel like I really had a lot of pressure. I mean, that's just kind of how things are growing up isolated like that, especially with a system who's controlling where you just got to figure everything out and just got to be done just so. Um, no reprieve from the culture or the pressure. Um, but this really just captured a lot of how much I lived in my head. And I feel like that's one of the reasons why I wanted to write this one when I wrote it at the time was it's just like I just couldn't get out of my head. And so I decided I would just put down on paper um, what my mind cycled through. And I feel like a part of it was just me getting a bird's eye view, like some perspective on another perspective on what my mind does every single day. And quite frankly, a big reason why the poetry has always been so important to me and so powerful to me is this like there's just these thoughts that just won't stop. And I just got to have somewhere that I can get these thoughts out because I'm not allowed to say or think what I feel. Really, a lot of thought policing and be careful what you say because, I mean, especially in the DCCS, you say one thing, it's like within the next day or week, it's like your reputation is already tainted, destroyed if you say the wrong thing. It's just like it just spreads like wildfire so fast. Then you have to watch what you say very closely because it comes back to bite you in the ass very quickly. And so it's like there's no safe place for my thoughts to come out except for my poetry. Uh, and so I felt like that was a big part of why I wanted to write this one when I wrote it was to really capture just how much I was always stuck in my head and had nowhere else to put these thoughts. And this was my way of getting these thoughts out so that I could finally take a look at them um, in private, in secret, I suppose, in some ways, in a way that nobody would ever look at. So that's my poem, The Seed of Dreams. Um, there's a link to my books in the description down below. And so, like this video, subscribe to my channel, and follow me on Facebook, Blood Wolf Arts Studio. And you can find me on across all my platforms like TikTok as Mr. Moonlight Rhyme. So the poem will be just right after this in just a minute. So thank you for tuning in and welcome to my side of the moon.
The Seed of Dreams by Aaron Brown. Every single soul has dreams to do what they love. Every hour of every day, a talent from above. Talents always do start small. It's just a tiny seed. A seed that just needs planted well and kept without the weeds. Weeds grow up around the plant and try to choke it out. Things like envy come from others. From inside comes the doubt. A talent must be truly treasured. It's such a special thing. Worth more than you ever think. More than a diamond ring. It guides us to what we do best, giving us our worth. Everyone can say the same on the whole wide earth. Some refuse their special gift. It's such a crying shame. Saying that they never had, finding someone to blame. Yet it truly is our choice to supplant our special gift. Wishing we were someone else is a life truly half lived. We often do not see our strengths. It makes angels cry. Others seem to have it all, but that is a half lie. We do truly have it all, if we'll only look and see ourselves for who we are, not based on some odd book. Though it is sometimes true some talents are the same, it is better that we glow and bring light to our domain. And even if someone we know can do what we do, joy and talents multiply with one turned into two. When we come together and share what we do, it gives others that same strength to be their own self true.